Hello, and welcome to episode 287 of the Casual Try Hard podcast. I'm Brian.
And this is 289.
Did I say 287?
You did.
Oh, man. Oh, leave it in.
Roll with it. We're not starting over.
This is the second time. This is the second time. So we are trying to, again, record Folkemon Burrow.
As opposed to Pokemon Bloom.
Bloom, exactly. Yeah. We're hoping to get through the remainder of the cards that I can no longer see the show notes for because I had to restart my computer. So it's one of those days.
Brian hasn't even moved to studio yet.
Yeah, I know. We were talking about how we're gonna have a mix of possible the finest extended stay hotel that you can buy for under $80 a night in Madison.
I'm sure it's gonna be quality.
Got quality internet, I'm sure. If that internet is not quality, we will perhaps be recording from the 7th floor of the chemistry building. Just shut my door after hours and record. And then hopefully one day we will be in a house, and then we will be able to do that whole thing.
Yeah. The reason we're telling you all of this is we're not going to have a ton of time coming up. And we are going to be in between sets. So if there are show ideas that you guys want to hear, hit us up. Let us know what you want to hear about, and we will do our best to make it happen. And how can they do that? If
they can find us on the internet. There's Facebook. There's Discord. There is, oh goodness, email. And there is X, a.k.a. Twitter. So reach out to us, let us know what you want us to talk about, and we'll do our best to accommodate.
Yeah.
Because, I guess we're in the midst of another set release right now.
Sure. Never ending, right?
Yeah. So then the next set release won't be maybe for another 2 weeks. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows what we'll talk about in the meantime.
Yeah. So... yeah, reach out, program the show, say hey.
There you go, hit us up. If you're looking to support the show, there's 2 ways you can do that. Like always, the first doesn't cost you guys anything extra and helps us out. It's our TCG player affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Surf on over there using that link, do some shopping, and whatever you purchase will help to support the show. We would appreciate it. The second is through Patreon, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Over there, you can chip a couple bucks in, however much you feel like, and in return, you'll get access to our pre-show. Our unshow, which is about another hour's worth of content out of us every week, completely unedited, unscripted, anything. That's why we started calling it the unshow.
Yeah.
Typically, it's where we make sure our equipment works, although
then it breaks as soon as we start the real show.
The whole unshow, and then immediately upon starting the show, it broke. Also, it should be interesting coming up with multiple new studios happening and rapid fire.
Yes,
should be interesting. I hope you patrons are ready for it. And if you want to be ready for it, go on over to patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG and chip a couple bucks in, and you will have access as well. Double the content from your favorite podcast.
Double the content, exactly. All right, so we were partway through Black last week.
We were. And
so we're going to be picking it up with Iridescent Vine Lasher.
Mm-hmm.
This is a 1-mana 1/2 Lizard Assassin with Offspring of 2. And has landfall. Whenever a land you control enters, this creature deals 1 damage to target opponent.
Mm-hmm.
So he's a 3-mana Valakut Valakut's 3 damage. So this is 2/3 of a Valakut if you spend 3 mana.
It's also, was it Retreat to Hagra? Was the black retreat? But that was 3 mana and it did 2 damage, I think.
Mm-hmm. And an enchantment, so a little harder to interact with.
Yep.
This does commit a crime.
It does. It's also an assassin for things that care about outlaws.
I was thinking, what is the 3-mana green card when you commit a crime? Like, look for a land to put it in the battlefield.
Oh yeah. That's fun. Oh, that's cute.
So like, yeah. So now it only triggers once each turn, so you just can't like
machine gun.
go all the way off.
Yeah.
But like you play like if you play like a fetch land, like a Fabled Passage, which is in the set.
Yep.
Right on your turn, you ping them, and then you hit a land.
Yep.
And then on their turn, you crack your fetch.
Yep.
You ping them, you hit another land.
Yep.
So like you could get, it's not out of the question to get multiple activations out of this.
Yeah.
And like
at the same time.
Yeah, Aspiring Spike had like whatever the heck that green card is, had a bunch of decks where like that card was like a major part of it.
Yeah.
Right, like where it was just how to make that card good. And this is just like do the thing that card wants you to do, which is just like play lands.
Right.
Like this just kind of covers that.
Yep.
It's unfortunately a little too fragile to be like, I'm gonna be a Scape Shift deck.
Yeah, I mean for older formats, sure. I mentioned last week, I think, and in the pre-show that I've been playing a little bit of Standard. And this guy is definitely showing up in Standard. I've played against a bunch of Vine Lasher decks.
Gotcha.
With oh shoot, I can't remember the name of it now. That black-green card I really liked that had deck built around it for a minute.
Not Pillage the Bog.
No, the one that's oh shoot.
Black-green card. Oh, Insidious Roots?
Yes. Yep.
Okay. Interesting.
Because that deck just wants to put a lot of lands from your graveyard in the battlefield.
Oh, yeah, okay.
And then you just, like, fireball your opponent when you do that.
Oh, like so, like, Insidious Roots and the
Greenkeeper.
Or the one in a green card that you pay 3 in a green and it puts all the lands from your graveyard on the battlefield.
Yep.
It's not Crime Scene Investigator or something Analyst.
Yeah, that's what it is, the Analyst.
Yeah, no, I could see that where you just like get it. So basically, it's kind of like the deck with the New Capenna fetch lands, but where now you have this as like your win condition.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I've run into that a bunch of times.
Yeah, I mean it makes sense. It just kind of sucks that this is, again, like I said, it's a little fragile.
Yeah.
Too. But like then you just win because you've got like a bajillion lands on the battlefield.
Right. Find something to do.
Yes. Find anything to cast with a bajillion lands.
Right.
There you go.
All right. Anything else about this guy?
I don't think.
No, I don't think so either. So next up we have the Osteomancer Adept. This is 1 and a black for a 2/2 Squirrel Warlock with Death Touch. And you can tap it until end of turn. You may cast creature spells from your graveyard by foraging in addition to paying their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, that creature enters with a finality counter on it. So obviously you can't like storm off like you can with the Underworld Breach.
Why not?
Because you have to tap it. Oh no, it's creature spells. No, absolutely you can. I lied.
So it's Underworld Breach for creatures.
Yeah.
On a 1-turn delay.
Right.
Right. So you play this and then like you tap it and then you get to go nuts. And I think that like oh gosh, what is it? Stitcher Supplier. Right, kind of like feeds itself if you can like get the mana.
Yep.
If you can find a way to get mana. Like this plus oh, what is his name? The green black planeswalker. Oh gosh. Tyvar.
Oh, okay, yep. Oh yeah, that works well.
right? And Tyvar, and then I'm just like building a whole deck. Insidious Roots.
Yep.
Right, because now Tyvar lets all your things, all your tokens tap for mana.
Yep.
So then you're generating yourself mana.
Yep.
As you do it. I mean, it's not as powerful as Underworld Breach because there aren't a ton of creatures that also have rituals stapled to them.
Correct.
Right, so like you're at like what, Burning Tree Emissary. The new guy this set, if they taken damage, makes black green or black red.
There's the Hidden Herbalist from Kaladesh.
Something like that. That like it's like a green and it makes green.
I think
if something died.
Generic and a green.
Okay. But like, you know, you could like in theory figure out some way to like storm off with this. But it's also just like reasonable value. Like I'm just gonna play a card out of my graveyard.
Yep. And
that's good enough.
It's kind of cute with like Kroxa or Uro, right?
Oh, you just get to like get them back.
Get the value over and over and over and over again. Like they're not going to stick because they weren't escaped, but you just get the ETB every time.
Yeah, I mean, like Kroxa being 2 mana is not like the end of the world. Right. Just like 2 mana Kroxa you like, but you definitely have to have a deck where you're Citrus Suppliering or is it Mire Triton?
Mm-hmm. The 2/1.
That mills 2. Like you definitely have to be like actively filling your graveyard up. But like, there's even like in Murders of Karloff Manor, there's like a green like 1/1 that like enters and surveils 2.
Yep.
Right. There's plenty of ways that you can fill your graveyard to kind of like have food for this.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Full card.
But it is a little slow. Like they know it's coming. But like as like a value play, it seems reasonable, and it's a 2/2 Death Toucher. Like you just get to worst case trade it off for something.
Right. I dig it. I'm gonna let you take this next one. You seemed pretty
interested
stoked about it.
All right, so Rottenmouth Viper is 5 and a black for an elemental snake. It's a 6/6, and as an additional cost to cast a spell, you may sacrifice any number of non-land permanents. This spell costs 1 less to cast for each permanent sacrificed this way. And whenever Rottenmouth Viper enters or attacks, put a blight counter on it. Then for each blight counter on it, each opponent loses 4 life unless that player sacrifices a non-land permanent or discards a card. So, this really puts the squeeze on your resources.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of in a similar way that like Liliana does.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And we have talked about from time to time the fact that modern Magic cards just make cardboard.
Yep.
Right, so
this makes every piece of cardboard a treasure.
Mm-hmm. So like Doomwake had made a deck, and then Jim Davis also played it. It was like blue-black.
Mm-hmm.
Where you're playing Spyglass Siren and something else that makes a trinkety token when it comes into play with Rottenmouth Viper plus Soul Artifact.
Okay.
And the Zoetic Glyph, where like you're making all this you're playing all these 1 mana things that make trinkety trash. And then you can either eat all those trinkets to make a 6/6, or you can Ensoul it. Yep. There was also a black-white deck floating around that played... it was a standard deck. It played like the knockoff Thraben Inspector.
Yep.
Hopeless Nightmare. And then Resolute Reinforcements. And the standard legal braids.
Mm-hmm.
Like the bad braids.
Yeah.
But like I've kind of been thinking about like, you know, you could almost play like a Rakdos deck that was like in like Pioneer Explorer, that is like the 1-drop vampire that makes a blood.
Mm-hmm.
Blood Tithe Harvester.
Yep.
That makes a blood. And then things like Thoughtseize and like Hopeless Nightmare.
Yeah, I mean you could also play the thing that blows up an artifact and you make 3 goblins.
Yes. Gleeful Demolition.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah. But with the thought being like if you're playing Thoughtseize, Hopeless Nightmare, and then just like reasonable stuff.
Yeah.
Right? You run them out of resources, then you stick this.
Mm-hmm.
And then like they just never get to have resources the rest of the game.
Right.
Right? You're like Thoughtseize into Hopeless Nightmare and then like a 1-drop. And then like the Wonder Epicure.
Yep.
And then you're like, all right, turn 3, sack the Hopeless Nightmare, the Epicure, and the Blood Token. Right? They're down so many cards. Right? Hopefully you've like, taken their removal spell, and now they're just like, if I don't top deck a removal spell, I lose. Because like this thing attacks and like you have to discard 2 cards.
Yeah, that's
or like sack 2 permanents. Like you're just
it's 3,
you're done
because it happens once on its way in,
mm-hmm.
and then twice.
And then when it attacks
the first time.
Yeah, so you're down like it's like a 4-for-1 if it gets to attack.
Yeah,
and and if you don't get rid of stuff, you take 8 or 12 damage. Yep. Like you've got to discard some stuff.
This is also thinking about it from that direction instead of just playing like the value deck like you were kind of describing a minute ago. Mm-hmm. That makes this guy a pretty good reanimation target, I would think. Also,
mm-hmm.
Like even if you don't build your deck around the cost reduction part and you just plan on binning it and bringing it out.
Yeah, like getting it down a couple turns early.
Yeah.
Through reanimating.
Yep.
Someone in Jim Davis's stream was like, this is probably pretty good with sneak attack, and it's like, well, there are better things, but yes, it is good with like, you get 3 triggers the turn it comes out.
Yeah.
Or in your reanimation scenario, what is the enchantment that you discard a card and draw 2, so it's Tormenting Voice, but then you can pay 1 to give creatures haste.
Yeah, the red one.
Yeah.
Yep.
Right, so like you play this, you bring it back, and then you're like, give it haste.
Yeah.
And they just are like, oh, I guess I just lose.
Gross.
So like, I feel like it's really good if you're in some way that you can like squeeze your opponent's resources so that like once it resolves, you're, well, not guaranteed, feel fairly confident that you're going to be able to get an attack in.
Yeah.
Like the blue-black version of the deck, where you're like, insult artifacting things is fine.
I don't think that's
right. Like,
build it.
No, but it does make them kind of worry about 2 things, right? Mm-hmm. Right. And I think it was more like, well, I'm playing all these blue things that make artifacts.
Right.
Because it was like this, and then Case of the Fletched Falcon,
mm-hmm.
or Finched Falcon, and something else is like the 1-drops that make extra bodies. But I was like, well, red-black, you would just get to like play like the good red and black cards. Right. And then you would have a thing that's not as good as Vein Ripper, but like in that same ballpark.
Mm-hmm.
That you could play on turn 3 without having to draw a sword, and you're just like, play cards I was planning to play anyway, and then fall backwards into this.
Sure.
So, but yeah, like if you've put your opponent in the squeeze, this just finishes it off.
Oh yeah, quickly too.
Yes. Also, Jim Davis pointed this out, and don't really notice it. This effect is always 3 life.
It is.
They made it 4. Right, this one's 4 for some reason. Like, I don't know why.
I don't know either. Like, that doesn't really change the clock, right?
It does. It takes it from like 5 triggers, from 7 triggers to 5.
Oh,
right. Like
if you're just killing them with the 4 life, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, it's on a 6/6 body, so I was including the body.
This is fair. I mean, it does add like, yeah, like if you attack, like you could deal 18 this way versus 15. Doesn't super matter. Like if they just take the life and then don't block for whatever reason.
Yeah.
But
well, I mean, the ability is kind of like Annihilator.
It is,
but it annihilates their hand also. So you know, you're run out of resources, and like they have to keep something in their hand to combat this thing with. Otherwise, they're just going to lose. So they're either going to be losing life or sacrificing permanents, which means they may not have blockers.
Exactly. So yeah, they just take a bunch of damage. Yeah, it's weird that they made it 4 when like Torment of Hailfire and like this effect is always 3.
It's always 3.
So like consistency and grockability be damned. We've made it 4.
Cool card though.
Yes.
I dig it. One more black card. We have Scavenger's Talent. Single black mana for an enchantment class. The baseline ability is whenever one or more creatures you control die, create a food token. This triggers once each turn. Level 2 is whenever you sacrifice a permanent, target player mills 2 cards. And level 3, so level 2 was 2 mana. Level 3 is 3 mana. At the beginning of your end step, you may sacrifice 3 other non-land permanents. If you do, return a creature card from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finality counter on it. My thought with this is, like, there's a whole bunch of food stuff with forage and like just foods in general. It's in the correct colors, and like at the base level, without sinking any more mana into this, it's just another way to get a food. Like there's cards that exist. It's just, I think there's, was it 2 adventure cards now? That's just like a single mana, make a food, and then there's something else stapled to it. So I think like in the right deck, this just might be playable on its own. In a graveyard centric deck, the second level is relevant. You know, you sacrifice your oh man, brain fart. We just talked about him. The mill guy. Necromancer.
The
one of my favorite cards.
Ostomancer Adept?
No. 1 mana for a 1/1.
Oh, Citrus Supplier.
Citrus Supplier, yeah. Wow. One of my favorite cards. I can't believe I blinked on that. You know, when you're playing Citrus Supplier, you typically play some way to sacrifice it so you can get both ends, whether it's Deadly Dispute or Village Rights or whatever. You just get extra mill out of it that way.
I don't know if this is like helpful for like the Pioneer sacrifice deck, but like you like turn your cat into 2 food when you sacrifice it.
Yep.
And then the second mode gives you like an alternate way to win the game.
Yep.
Where you like just get to mill them out. Like if their life total is not something that like seems super relevant,
right?
You just mill them out of the game that way.
Yep.
And like the last mode, like at least in limited, like you feel like it should only happen once, but it happens every turn.
Yep.
They just get to bring something back. So like that's always just like, huh? Okay, like I'm going to lose to this coming back like 4. Like they're them bringing back everything each and every turn. Because like you just tap your foods or whatever that you've generated before.
Right.
So, or sacrifice your foods. But yeah, like this card does a lot for 1 mana.
Absolutely. Value engine all rolled up into 1 card. Now we are moving on to red.
To red.
The first red card we have is Blooming Blast. 1 in a red for an instant. It has Gift the Treasure. And Blooming Blast deals 2 damage to target creature if the gift was promised. Blooming Blast also deals 3 damage to that creature's controller. The first thing I thought of when I read this was Searing Blood.
Mm-hmm.
This is slightly worse Searing Blood, but slightly worse Searing Blood is
still pretty good.
Still Searing Blood.
Yeah, I think that like the biggest thing is gifting a treasure in the early game.
Yeah, it's rough.
Is really scary. Yeah. Right? Like, from like a standard point of view, like, do you really want them to like? You can't like do this on like turn 2 and give them a treasure and then have them like play a turn 3 Shield Druid or a turn 3 whatever the white mythic is from this set. Like, then you're just like too far behind.
Right, but is Searing Blood usually your turn 2 play if you're playing a burn deck?
Not typically.
So,
but like
it takes the sting out of the treasure then.
Yeah, like if it's on like turn 5 or 6, right? Or if it's like this 3 damage kills you,
right?
Or like makes it so you take lethal some other way, then the treasure doesn't super matter.
I wouldn't even argue on 4. I think like I think 4 mana is the break point. It seems like most of the haymakers have been 4 mana lately.
Mm-hmm.
So you play this on turn 4, kill something to buy you some time. You're not really ramping them because they didn't need 5 mana; they needed 4 mana.
Yeah, it is awkward though that it is not a tapped treasure, right? Yeah. Like you could be giving them mana for interaction.
That's true.
But, yeah, like it is at that like line where you're like, it could be good enough, but it also has enough drawbacks. Yeah. That you're like, okay, like now I've got to think about how to use this. Yeah. The kind of like, oh god, what was the landfall one? Searing Blaze. Yeah. We're like, okay, this is good, but like I've got to like have fetch lands in my deck to make sure I can turn it on and that kind of stuff.
Right. I mean, the other thing is this is easier to cast than Searing Blood is.
Mm-hmm. Being one in a red
instead of red.
Yeah. So I guess kind of splashable, but also like you play like utility lands in your like mono red deck.
Right.
Perhaps an uncommon mouse land or something. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. This is one out of Discord.
Okay.
This is Coruscation Mage. 1 in a red for a 2/2 Otter Wizard with Offspring 2. So if you pay the 2 extra mana, you get an additional copy of this that's a 1/1. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this creature deals 1 damage to each opponent.
This effect, like, always ends up at some point in Standard having a deck built around it.
It used to.
Fair. Like, think about, like, Thermo Alchemist.
Right.
And then there was the Gutter Snipe. Then, like, there was a 2/1 that dealt 1. Like, it is one of those things that, like, people try to make work.
Yep.
The fact that you kind of get 2 Thermo Alchemists in 1 card in the mid to late game is good.
Right, but it's also, like, 1 mana more for a Gutter Snipe.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't as good.
Yeah, I mean, they do have to have, in theory, 2 removal spells. So you like always end up, in theory, like they trade for half your Gutter Snipe, and you still have something going on. Yeah. But yeah, like this effect has typically been good, and like this is kind of an interesting way to break it up, right? Where it's like it's Gutter Snipe spread across 2 bodies, but for the extra body you're paying an extra mana for it. But the problem is like you want to play this on as early as possible. Like you don't want to. Yeah, you don't want to wait till turn 4, spend your entire turn 4 to play this with Offspring, and then hope to like go ham on turn 5.
So I got a question for you.
Okay.
An effect like this.
Mm-hmm.
Do you what kind of deck do you envision having this card in, or an effect like this card in? Is it like a blue red spellslinger deck where you're just trying to basically storm off, or is it more of like adding points of damage to a burn spell?
My first thought for this is like it's often like the blue red, like, because like the thing that you need is you need to keep the cards flowing,
right,
to make it work. And so this with the otter divination that costs one less, so you're like, okay, you can play this and then pay 2 mana to draw 2 cards, and then those 2 cards hopefully give you 2 more triggers.
Yep.
And so on and so forth. But like they have been played, right? Or I have seen decks play kind of the, I'm gonna play my Thermo Alchemist and then like Skewer the Critics, and now my Skewer the Critics does 4.
Yep.
Right? You can play that version as well.
So I guess the point that I kind of wanted to, like, I agree with you. I see this more in a spells archetype than in like a burn deck or a red deck wins or something like an aggro-y red deck. And I think my reasoning for that is that in a burn deck or a red deck wins or like a red aggro deck, you probably don't want to be spending turn 4 playing this with Offspring. Like you want to be killing them.
Yeah.
Like you want them dead on turn 4 or like turn 5 at the absolute latest. And your game plan being play 2 of these on turn 4, I don't think plays into that, because then in order to get your value out of this guy, you're sandbagging spells, which is giving your opponent more time, which is going to make it even harder for you to catch up in the late game. So I don't think this necessarily fits into that game plan.
Yeah, it's like it's more like these have typically been like, and it does matter how much red card draw you have, but it's typically been like a blue-red deck where the blue is to keep the cards flowing, and the red is, some removal, like direct damage, but like you need like some way to keep cards and mana. So like Ren's Resolve and those what is he called? Is it Questing Druid? Right, and whatever the adventure is on that. Right, like stuff like that is what you need, that like impulse draw to like keep things going. But you are right, like this is way more powerful as like a 3 mana 2/2, like a Gutter Snipe that deals 2, where your turn 4 is then, cast 4 spells, deal you 8 damage just from the triggers.
Right, and then whatever the spells do.
And whatever the spells did, exactly. Where this is turn 4, do the thing, cross your fingers, hope you get to untack. Yeah, hope it's, you have the same thing with Gutter Snipe, but at least with Gutter Snipe, you've done it on turn 3. Right, they've had less time to build out a board, less time to like find an answer.
The 4 mana is relevant in a World of Shieldred also, because if you're playing a deck that, like you said, just wants to keep the cards flowing, like Shieldred punishes you for that super hard. And this guy getting it, like I would argue that this card without Offspring is bad, like not worth it. And if you're waiting until turn 4, like now you're facing down your opponent's Shieldred and you can't refill.
Yeah, it's kind of easier to kill Thermo Alchemist without Offspring. So yeah, it is like, again, this they did a good job with it. It's like right at the line. It's maybe a little bit worse than Thermo Alchemist on 2, because like it dies to shock, it dies to disfigure, or what is it? What is it? Savor, right? It dies to like slightly different removal spells than Thermo Alchemist, but on 4 it's maybe better or it's better, but then you've got like the kind of the sweat.
Yeah.
So again, another card that like would have been cool as like a common,
Right.
just because like these effects see a lot of play in like Pauper.
Mm-hmm.
All right, next up, we have Emberheart Challenger. So this is 1 on a red for a Mouse Warrior with haste, prowess, and it's a 2/2. It has Valiant. Whenever Emberheart Challenger becomes the target of a spell or ability you control for the first time each turn, exile the top card of your library until the end. Until end of turn, you may play that card. So like a 2-mana 2/2 prowess haste is just like
good.
A demonstrated solid card.
Right.
And then the fact that it gives you some amount of card advantage is like just gravy.
Yep.
Like it is. Think about what was the 1 mana or the 2 mana 1/1 double strike guy that connived.
Oh yeah.
Right. Like that gave you selection, and now it kind of scaled bigger because it had double strike.
Right.
But it like gave you card selection. Like this gives you like the card advantage is a little harder and can be awkward, but like you can just like get an extra card each turn.
Well, this guy has double strike too.
Oh, he does?
He does. You just got to play him alongside the other mouse.
Oh, the manifold mouse?
Yeah, it gives him double strike and then gets you a card. And
I played the Bloom Burrow like make weak magic where you could only play like Bloom Burrow stuff.
Yep.
And I just played like red white mice.
That's what I've been playing at standard.
And just like smushed people.
Oh yeah.
Like, they're just draws that you're just like, yeah, I can't lose. It's like, 1 drop into like Manifold Mouse.
Mm-hmm.
Or like Manifold Mouse, and you just give you give your big thing trample, and then you give something else double strike, and then you just like, they can't ever block.
Yep.
Yeah. But like, this is a card that could like see player play in like what is it called? Oh gosh. In like the heroic deck.
Mm-hmm.
In like Pioneer.
Absolutely.
Right, where that card is going to just be an extra way to like grow and give you card advantage.
Yep.
Right. Be smart game players. Do not like play your land before you target this unless you're like going to kill them.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, this, like I said, this card is priced to move. It kind of does all the things that like a constructed level card does.
Yeah, I mean, take out the mouse gimmickiness of this thing, and like would just be a solid card in any set.
Yeah, if it was human warrior,
yeah,
and not mouse, you'd be like, yeah, this is perfectly fine.
Yep, I think this card was specifically designed to see play.
Mm-hmm.
Very good card. Next one. This one was also out of Discord, but I had it on the list already. Same with Emberheart Challenger. That was a request out of Discord that I already had on the list. But this is Flame Cash Gecko, 1 in a red for a 2/2.
Mm-hmm.
When Flame Cash Gecko enters, if an opponent lost life this turn, add black-red, and you can pay 1 in a red and discard a card to draw a card. So it's a looter and also a burning tree.
Yeah. So like the joke is that if they take damage, it's like ETB, discard a card, draw a card. Right. But like I've definitely had limited games where I've done like attack with my 2-drop, and then play 5 mana with the spells on turn 3.
Yep.
It is a card that is like, it does a lot. Like, it is really good in the late game when you're like I definitely had limited games where like I discarded like 6 lands.
Yeah.
To it, where it's just like, oh, this is keeping me in the game all by itself.
Mm-hmm.
But it does give you that like explosive start.
Yeah. This seems like a solid cube card.
It does. It did not find its way in yet.
No?
But it is a solid cube card. It's awkward that, you know, for most applications you're playing it post combat. Right? Because like what you would want to do is, you know, play this, then play, you know, what was our last guy here? Gosh. Emberheart Challenger. Yeah. Right? We're like deal them damage, play this, play another aggressive threat and attack. Yeah. Right? But there's not like in standard, there's not, what was that terrible card from Guilds of Ravnica? It was like a red for like an 0/3 and you tapped it and it dealt 1 damage to each player.
Oh.
It like turned on Spectacle.
Yeah, the Goblin Harpoonist or whatever.
Something like that. Yeah, it was like a goblin like hanging out by like Spear Guy or something. Yeah. Right? Like if we had something like that you like could deal pre-combat damage and then like, oh hey, now I get to like use that mana at a time that was more advantageous to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, even post combat, like if you have the, you know, the if you remember the red decks from early Arena, where like they always just played 3 Burning Tree Emissaries on the second turn.
Yeah.
Right, like anytime you get to go like Gecko into Gecko, and then just like I guess I'll like rummage.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because there are definitely times that you go like Burning Tree, Burning Tree, Burning Tree. I don't have anything to do with this last mana.
Right.
This last 2 mana. Yeah, this at least you like have a way to use the mana built in.
Yep.
But yeah, if there is a consistent way to do damage pre-combat, I think this would be way like you could make it really, really good.
What about? Wasn't there a desert from Hour that ETB'd and stung your opponent?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you could do
Sun Scorched Desert, yeah.
Desert, yeah.
Yeah, so like, yeah, it's something like you play your like red 1-drop, and then like you play your desert, get your ping in, and then play this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Yep.
Like that would work, do the job. And again, you always have the fail case if you don't have like the explosive start where you're just like, get rid of my extra land.
Yep, loot something away.
Yeah, so like in like this might find a home in like the red decks just as like a way to like get rid of extra lands.
Mm-hmm.
Because we've had. What's funny is we've had like, oh, is it Rixmati Reveler?
Yeah, I actually really like that card.
Like 1 on the red ETB. It's a 2/2. Like discard a card, draw a card.
Yep.
I think it had some extra text, but that was a rare.
Yeah, it was a Spectacle for 4 mana, and you got to loot twice, maybe?
Something like that, yeah.
Discard your hand, draw 3 cards?
Maybe that was it.
Something like, along those lines.
This is like a whole lot of that card.
Yeah.
At like uncommon.
Yep.
But yeah, like it is a powerful effect.
Mm-hmm. And we got one more red card.
All right.
This is Heartfire Hero. Red mana for a 1/1 mouse soldier with Valiant. When it becomes a target of a spell or ability for the first time, each turn put a +1/+1 counter on it. And when it dies, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent.
One, I am super bad at like looking at art. I have thought until just now that his cloak was actually his head. And I was like, wait, no, I see the mouse now. Yep. Good thing I'm paying attention. I mean, this type of effect has proven itself pretty powerful over the last couple years.
Mm-hmm.
We had the heroic. We had the Fireblade Charger.
Yep.
That like, you know, you'd like put equipment on in those decks and to get huge, and if they killed it, they just died.
Yep.
We now have 2 of this effect in standard. So again, there was a like a budget magic deck that Saffron Alum did with like playing both of these, where you like just attack, cast like a couple pump spells, and then fling it.
Yeah, buddy.
And then you get like the damage you dealt plus the fling damage plus the fact that you sacrificed it.
Yep.
So like you get it to 7 power and just kill them.
Yep.
And now there are 2 of that effect, so you get to do it twice, or you have 2 ways to have those explosive starts. I mean, again, and like you said, in the heroic decks, it like might be putting counters on it anyway.
Yep.
It just gets the thing where they have to kill it, but they can't.
Because if they do, it kills them.
Yeah. Now, like the downside is against like a white deck, they just
exile it.
Yeah, they just exile it and it doesn't trigger.
Yeah.
But like against a black or a red deck, like you're always gonna like get that ping, and that ping might be 4 damage.
Yep.
So
I've been playing this in that my standard deck, my red white aggro deck.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's super good with Monstrous Rage.
All right, on to green.
I think this is one you had asked for, isn't it?
Perhaps. Fecunded Green Shell. It is 3 green. It's an elemental turtle. It's 4/6. It has reach, and as long as you control 10 or more lands, creatures you control get +2/+2. And whenever Fecunded Green Shell or another creature you control with toughness greater than power enters, look at the top card of your library. If it's a land, you may put it onto the battlefield tapped. Otherwise, put it into your hand. So it is a Risen Reef for butts.
That is true.
So all the good elementals have square stats, which I found frustrating.
Oh yeah.
Right? Risen Reef, all the Omnaths have square stats.
You just got to play like Castle. All your creatures get +0/+2.
There you go. Like we've seen the Risen Reef effect be good. And then like if you have a bunch of lands that's just helping you put into play, then you just get to win the game. And like there's
plays nice with our Boreal Grazer.
Shieldred is a 4/5. Trying to think of other cards that are Siege Rhino. Blast from the Past. I was trying to think of like cards that are like seeing play, or seeing like Sarah Paragon. The white elemental is a 4/5.
The vampire, the Preacher of the Schism or whatever. 2/4.
Yeah, like
the Tuver.
The Tuver. It's like Preacher of the Schism, Shieldred, this, like it's not like you're playing like a bad card in the bunch.
Right.
And then like you play this, you get a 2-for-1, and then if you play anything else, you're just doing it. And eventually you just get to kill them. So I don't know. It's a lot of value. It's 5 mana, but it's a lot of value, and like it's gonna get you to the lands for that other part. Like I know the turtle, the oh gosh, Blossoming Tortoise. It's a 3/3, but it also is putting lands onto the battlefield.
Right.
And I guess it pumps your creature lands.
Land creatures, yeah.
Or it makes it easier to activate them or whatever. Like these are kind of doing the same thing. They both want you to get to a ton of lands on the battlefield.
So I got a hypothetical for you.
Okay.
At what power and toughness, keeping it not square, could this thing be like 4 mana?
3/4?
I think this might be too powerful as a 3/4 for 4 mana. I was thinking 2/4.
Okay. You could maybe convince me at 2/4, where then it pumps itself up to a 4/6 eventually.
Yeah. What about 3 mana? Like, is there a stat line that makes this balanced at 3 mana? This seems really, really good at 3 mana. Like if this was a 1/2.
Yeah, like it's hard though, right? Because like there's the one green raccoon that's a 4/4. Thrashing Brontodon is an uncommon that's a 3/4.
Right, but like Thrashing Brontodon doesn't win the game if unchecked.
True. No, but I'm just saying like
Risen Reef is 3 mana.
Risen Reef is 3 mana, and it says build around elementals.
Right.
This says like build around big buds.
Right.
Yeah, maybe 1/2, just because like you would get to a point where it would be like the fact that it has the like win the game text on it, like have creatures win the game, is why I think it's 5 mana.
Yeah.
I think without that line of text, like, you know, it's a 3 mana card.
Oh, sure.
I don't know if that line of text is worth 2 mana, but yeah, I think that you could. Perhaps they showed restraint, and they made it 5 mana. Because like, there's some pretty wacky 4 mana cards now.
Yes,
right, like this is a 3/4 at 4 mana. Like you might have been like, huh, but might not have been the. You would have been like, oh, that's completely totally unreasonable.
Right.
Right, like here's a 4 mana 6/6 flyer that domes your opponent for 2 whenever a creature dies. It will eventually kill you, but if you play your cards right, you get to win the game.
Right.
So, yeah, no, that's interesting. Like, could you have made it cheaper? But yeah, it's probably the right cost. I was just excited for like a reasonable elemental, and then I went and looked at
what you had
all
to
the stat
with.
lines for the elementals. It's like, oh, they're all square stats.
Yeah.
Why is this?
Yeah. All right, next green card. We have I might skip these out of order. Mistbreath Elder. This is a green mana for a 2/2 frog warrior. At the beginning of your upkeep, return another creature you control to its owner's hand. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on Mistbreath Elder. Otherwise, you may return Mistbreath Elder to its owner's hand.
Mm-hmm. So you've got to return something if you have it.
Right.
And if you don't have something, you can return Mistbreath Elder.
Yep.
If that is in some way advantageous for you.
Yep.
If it's going to like trigger something or whatever. The card is very strong and limited. Like you just lose the game unless you like have a removal spell.
Definitely.
And like in constructed, there's definitely enough pond profit, like 2 mana draw a card, 3 mana draw a card, or have some sort of positive ETB effects that, right, like you can make good use out of this.
Yep.
But like much like Champion of the Parish, like this can just run away with the game. Like
Absolutely.
1 or 2 counters, you're just so far ahead of where your opponent is.
Yep.
And as a 1 mana 2/2, right? Like you just play this on 1. Almost anything they play on 1, you just eat, so they can't block it.
Yeah. My notes here are: this is a weird goblin guide.
It is. That is a good point. It is like it is a goblin guide, but like you can make the drawback an upside.
Right.
You're like, oh man, this is so awful. I have to return a creature, but every time I return a creature, I'm drawing an extra card, or like it's good for me in some way.
It's getting bigger. It reminds me of Soul Herder.
Oh yeah.
Like obviously Soul Herder wasn't mana gated like this is, but same kind of deck it wants to be in. And
yeah.
like, I mean, supposedly Soul Herder, it's too good for standard, right? They printed it
In Modern
as
Horizons.
a card in Modern Horizons, and it hasn't been in a set since.
No.
So.
Yeah, and like this is, like it's cheaper. I think it starts bigger.
No, Soul Herder's a 2/3.
Or is it a 2/3? Okay, I couldn't remember.
Pretty sure it's
But like, yeah, this can just like snowball and win you a game by itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got me second guessing myself now. I don't know if it is a 2/3. I might be wrong. I'm gonna have to look this up. Sorry.
Oh man, here we go. Type. It's 1/1. Okay, that's what I thought, but I wasn't sure.
Yep. So it does start bigger.
It starts bigger. It's 2 mana less, and like you are mana gated, but you do just get to like. You also like, if it's not going to be advantageous for you to return your 2-drop, you just don't have to play a 2-drop.
Right.
Right. You could play some a card that does something. It could play a 2 mana artifact or something and be fine.
Yep.
Right. Like, and we were talking about like things that make multiple pieces of cardboard. Right. I'm going to play a thing that like explores or makes a map or makes a blood. Like,
yeah, I mean that's a good point. You bounce your Blood Tithe Harvester every turn, or bounce your Voldaren Epicure.
Yeah, or the oh gosh, we just Spyglass, the Spyglass Siren.
Yep.
Right, like there was a blue-green like in like a blue-green like in Soul Artifact kind of deck that was floating around standard, like with Tough Cookie and stuff. You like play this and you bounce your Tough Cookie. Yeah. You still have the food left over.
Yep.
This is now a 3/3. You play your Tough Cookie King, get another food.
Yep.
Right, so this gets awkward though with 2. Because if you have 2 of them, one of them has to return the other.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind.
Actually, if that's all you have, they both have to return because you pick the targets when it goes on the stack.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so that is awkward.
Well, you could have one target itself.
Oh, yeah.
Right? You could like
no. Oh, yes. You are.
You could say I'm going to return this, right? If you do put oh wait, no. Otherwise, you may return. So that you have to target the other one.
The other one.
So
don't do that. Don't have 2 in play.
Well, it doesn't target though. It's return another creature. So is it like on the stack, one resolves and you return the other one, and then the next one resolves? Wouldn't have to. Yeah. Because it doesn't target. But still, if you have 2, one of them has to go back.
Well,
like there's no way you could avoid.
They're self-referencing, right? So the 2 triggers will go on the stack. You have Misbreath A and Misbreath B.
Yes.
They go on the stack. A is going to resolve first, right?
Yes.
So A has to target B.
It doesn't target though.
Right, but A is going to hit anything but A, which is B.
Yes. B goes away.
B goes away.
So,
and then the other one goes and has to hit A.
Does it? Okay, maybe you're right.
Right? Because it's anything but B, which would be A. That's the only one left.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, okay.
I'm going to have to build a deck and play against Sparky just to find
you. There we go.
I'm pretty sure that's how that works, though.
Yeah, I think you might be right. But anyway, don't have 2. It's
don't have 2. Don't have
2. Don't clone it. Whatever you do, don't clone it. All right.
Next up, we have Valley Might Caller.
Yeah,
and I definitely missed one. That's all right. This is a green mana for a 1/1 frog warrior with trample, and whenever another frog, rabbit, raccoon, or squirrel you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on Valley Might Caller.
Again, it should be a ride up to champion of the forest.
Also plays really well with the guy that we just talked about.
Yeah, like return it, put a counter on this thing.
Yep.
So you are limited by the number of frogs, rabbits, raccoons, and squirrels that exist.
Absolutely. Like, I mean,
Right.
you're not going to go. Although I guess like there's some reasonable changelings that are cheap.
Mm? What's his name from Modern Horizons? Changeling Outcast.
Yeah.
And then there are some playable like cheaper ones from Kaldheim.
Yep.
Realm Walker's 3 mana.
Yep.
And then there was the 2 mana guy that you had to exile a creature to like exile an enchantment. Masked Vandal. There we go. Like the drawback on this card is the fact that you are limited to like kind of, let's say, squirrely creature types. But like this effect that also has trample.
Yeah.
Right? Like all the other versions of this, Champion of the Parish and Champion of the Perished,
keywordless,
were keywordless. They were just big dumb idiots. And so that like if you can like you need what? If you play this on turn 1, if you can get 2 or 3 triggers, you're like pretty happy.
Oh yeah, you're doing just fine.
And it's not like once per turn, so like you can go like Valley Might Caller into 2 1-drops on 2.
Mm-hmm.
I played in that like midweek Magic Burrow constructed event.
Mm-hmm.
And had my opponent go Might Caller into Might Caller into Might Caller.
Oh, that's disgusting.
And I just like I can't. My mice can't beat this.
Yeah.
Right? It's like I can't win.
That's another point I wanted to make real quick though. Is if you think back into sets we've had previous to this one, there were some mice seeded in Eldraine.
And some rabbits, right? Yeah. The bunny corn.
Yeah. Do you think the other half of that's going to swing in the next few sets where we might get some more frogs and squirrels?
The next set does not seem like it lends itself well to that.
I could see raccoons in the next set.
Yeah, and I could see raccoons as well.
After that, we're back to Lorwyn, which could have.
Oh, is Lorwyn this fall? I thought it was next fall. I thought it was 25.
I thought it was the spring.
I mean, I hope it's 24.
I thought it was the winter set. Isn't it the winter set?
We are. Jeez. Okay. So there's not released in was 25. What is coming out in 25? Oh, they haven't released it yet.
Oh, okay.
It's still the release of Tennis.
Oh. So we don't know anything after Duskmourn?
I guess not, no.
All right. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if whatever came after Duskmourn had some support for some of these creature types that like aren't super well supported. That's the thing that they tend to do anyways, but especially since we saw some of that support in the last few sets.
Yes, I agree that they will probably. I'm looking for sets and like, oh, it's a secret layer. I'm like, why is there a Monty Python set? But no, it was a secret layer. Okay, whatever. You do whatever you want over there, wizards. I've given up on you. Yeah, I've not seen anything else. Yeah, I think we have Duskmourn and then no, yeah, but like Rabid Raccoon in Duskmourn or something.
Yeah. Trash Panda.
Trash Panda. Yeah, I think for sure that you could. They kind of did mice and rabbits in goodness in Wilds of Eldraine.
Yep.
You could definitely see. I think frogs are harder. I think squirrels and raccoons, or at least squirrels, have had a longer like run in Magic.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's easier to put a couple squirrels in somewhere.
Yep.
but like same with like maybe a couple raccoons. Frogs seem a little bit more niche, but like I guess Psychic Frog was in fact a frog.
Yeah, I mean we've also had some frogs recently on Innistrad, some legendary.
Oh yeah, Gitrog
and Slowgurk.
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, so they might like because what this card needs is some good 2 and 3 drops. Like one good 2-drop creature, one good 3-drop creature, and like that could also come in the form of like changelings, because they also have started throwing changelings in random sets for reasons. So like that could also work, but like this, you are like limited because it's not like you didn't get any squirrels in Thunder Junction. Right. You didn't get any squirrels, I don't think, in Murders at Karlov Manor.
No.
Right. So it's not like humans where like you always get humans.
Right.
Or zombies where you like kind of consistently get zombies. These are like less consistent creature types.
Yep.
But like, I don't know, if you told me in like 6 years there was some like aggro squirrel deck that was playing like Valley Might Caller as its 1-drop, I'd be like, okay, yeah, I see that.
Yeah, I mean the problem with that though is that it's not a squirrel, so it's not going to benefit from any typal strategies.
Fair, yeah. Like it would have to almost be like frogs, where you need like a frog lord.
Yeah.
And yeah, so yeah, you'd be better off if they were also if there's an aggro frogs deck in 6 years, but that seems harder.
Yeah.
Seems harder. I don't think Morrow's like on his soapbox at meetings asking for frogs.
Probably not.
It's like, okay, you gave me squirrels, I'll stop for a while.
Yep. All right.
Okie doke.
Next card. I think this is one that you were asking about, right?
Yes. So this is the infamous Cruel Claw. It is 1 black red for a legendary creature, Weasel Mercenary.
Best creature type.
Yes, it has Manache, and it's a 3/3. And whenever the infamous Cruel Claw deals combat damage to a player, exile cards from the top of your library until you exile an online card. You may cast that card by discarding a card rather than paying its mana cost.
Ooh.
Any card.
Yeah.
Any mana value. The hard part is getting in the hit.
It's got Manache.
There was, I brought it up because there was a deck that someone played that like won a tournament or did well in an event. Okay, this is some EDH deck. No, can we just like but they were like playing, they were doing, I think it must have been a modern deck. They were doing the all your cards cost more than 3, so they could play like Karuga, and more importantly the Discover guy.
Oh yeah.
So like they can consistently you consistently hit this, and it just so happens that your removal is a 7/6 trample dinosaur with Discover 6 or Discover 5.
Yeah.
And a 5/4 that gives everything -2/2. Mm-hmm. So like it like naturally had all these big idiots in it, and because all the big idiots also have like, C+ removal spells, C- removal spells attached to them.
Right.
So, that was one of so that came up, and so it is an interesting idea to be like, all right, like I can play. They keep printing all of these cards that are like effectively channel, or just split cards that have a high mana cost that let you. That like you wouldn't mind casting for free, but also let you interact in the early game. and live the dream, like spin into an Emrakul, spin into
this cast like too, so you get cast triggers.
Mm-hmm. But I mean, just like in like standard, like play this on 3 and just get in, and then you're like, oh, I'll hit a trumpeting Carnosaur.
Yep.
I'll hit like a Virtue of Persistence.
Yep.
Because it was also my 2-mana removal spell also turned into 7 mana win the game.
Yep.
So
that's cool.
Yeah, like
I kind of just wrote that off as a commander card. I really didn't think about it.
You get to. I didn't think about it either. The internet showed me that there are definitely people playing it.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is when you go look for it on Commander. Now, can we not? I'm like, can we look at decks? I want to see if I can find it. On, I think it was. Can I like search for? Yeah, there you go. Oh, there it is. So there's Rakdos mid-range. That is Preacher of the Schism, Cruel Claw, Shieldred, Trumpeting Carnosaur, and then some like reasonable removal in standard. But you're also playing 2 Virtues and like 4 Cruelty of Gix.
Yeah.
Because this is a discard outlet.
Yeah.
Right? You hit your Cruelty of Gix and then you discard a Big Idiot to cast a Cruelty, and then you get the Big Idiot back. So yeah, it does neat things. Like I kind of wrote off you have to hit with it, but when you do, it gets to do like the most powerful thing in Magic, which is cast a spell without paying its mana cost.
Yep.
And again, it's not like limited to. It's not mana limited. It's not 4 or less or anything. It's just do the whole thing.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's neat. I don't know if it's good enough to do anything like long term, but as like a fun thing to do on Arena on like a Friday night.
Sure.
Like seems like a plan.
Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, moving on.
Moving on.
If you had anything else to say about Cruel Claw, go for it.
I do not think so. I was like trying to find a list with it, but I can't find. They're all standard decks. Okay. Maybe it was a standard deck where they played the Discover guy.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Well, moving on. This is another one from Discord. This is Wandertail Mentor, red green for a 2/2 Raccoon Bard. Whenever you expend 4, put a +1/+1 counter on Wandertail Mentor, and it taps for a red or a green. I guess this is cute because it's actually, did we talk about this card when we did our signposts?
We did.
I thought we did.
I think I downplayed it a little bit, but having played against it, it's way better than I initially thought.
Yeah. Like it's a mana dork that stays relevant. Because you play this on 2, and then on 3 you have 4 mana, so you're going to trigger it. And then when you don't need it to be a mana dork anymore, you have a beater.
Yeah, I mean, like if you play this on 2 and then play a 4-drop, is a 3/3, but it's tapped. And then the next turn, presumably you hit your land drop.
Right.
And then you spend 4 more mana. Now you have a 4/4. Plus whatever like 4 mana play you played a turn early the turn before.
Yeah.
Right? You're like attack for 8 on turn 4.
Yeah.
Like that's like a reasonable good line.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know if it's good enough for like a standard or like constructed, but like it is a close mana dork. It's hard because right, like you would want. Right, like you have the Paradise Druid thing where like you're gonna untap with it.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like this, is a little fragile, but like it does have a chance to like you said, it stays relevant like all the time.
Yeah.
Right, like if you get 2 triggers and you have a 2 mana 4/4, like you're pretty happy with that.
I think the strike against this card for standard playability is that we know we're getting Magic Foundations with
Mm-hmm.
is it Llanowar or Elvish Mystic? I forget which one.
I think it was Llanowar.
So we know that set's coming with Llanowar Elf. And it's going to be in standard for an undetermined amount of time. And 100% of the time, I would rather have a 1 mana dork than a 2 mana dork. I don't care what the other ability is. Like,
agreed.
The acceleration to have 3 mana on either one is going to give you 4 mana on turn 4, but also having 3 mana, or I'm sorry, is going to have you 4 mana on turn 3.
Yes.
But you having 3 mana on turn 2 is a way bigger benefit than anything this card is going to have printed on it.
Yeah. Yeah, like there have been, standard decks, pioneer decks, modern decks, I think, all built on the go from 1 to 3.
Yep.
So less so go from 2 to 4.
Right.
Yeah, so this is probably what's going to hold it down is Magic Foundations is going to release at some point. I'm trying to find when it's supposed to release.
I don't think they gave a date, did they?
November 15th.
Oh. So we have a date for that, but we don't for Lorwyn?
There, when I looked at set releases, AI makes it to Duskmourn, and then this website is kind of trash, and I can't see what the heck's going on. IGN, that's the same one I was looking at. Star City only has up to Duskmourn.
Oh.
Foundation's November 15th.
Okay.
But so if they're releasing Foundations on November 15th, and it's the FNM format until January, so they're not going to have anything after Foundations this year.
So this article I just found has Innistrad Remastered as a January release.
Okay.
And then the Death Race set.
Okay.
For Q1 of 25.
Yeah, so I thought Lorwyn was fall of 25.
It is. Wrestling is Lorwyn, Q4 of 25.
Gotcha. Wrestling.
Yep. Just a couple cards left here. This is one that we've talked about previously, but I think this was also one that you wanted to talk about.
Yes.
Actually, these next two are both ones you wanted to talk about, so you want to just take over from here?
Sure. So, I feel like we talked about Yurgra, the Eater of All, on the pre-show or something.
Might have been.
So, it's 3 black-green for a legendary creature, Elemental Cat. It's a 6/6 with Ward, Sack of Food. And other creatures are food artifacts in addition to their other types and have the food text. And whenever a food is put into a graveyard from the battlefield, put 2 +1/+1 counters on Yurgra, Eater of All. So this combos with 2 Cauldron Familiars to win the game. One on the graveyard, one on the battlefield.
Win the game.
You just sack one to the other one.
Yep.
I don't know how relevant this is, but kind of oh gosh, what is his name? The big vampire. I just mentioned him earlier.
Vein Ripper?
Vein Ripper, right? This is effectively Ward sack a creature.
Yep.
Right? I've definitely played the vampires deck and played a Vein Ripper, and they did not have a creature.
Yep.
Right? I could see this in a, kind of black-green rockish deck, where you just kind of keep the battlefield clear, and then you put this down, and you're just you can't target it.
Yep.
It's a 6/6. You're just gonna die. But the fact that it could, the witch's oven cat thing, I think is interesting. So like this is a deck I would like want to put together, but I just haven't had time to like just like mess with this in like Explorer, Pioneer.
Yeah.
But yeah, just mainly for the cat interaction.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like
is there anything to the fact that it makes all your creatures artifacts?
it could. I mean, I guess you get to like there's not like a destroy like all your opponent's artifacts. Like where you could just like build a plague wind.
I was thinking more like everything you have pumps up your constructs.
Oh, good point. You just play this having a massive construct. I was thinking like if you were like Jund Food,
yeah,
right, or Jund Sack, and you're just like, well, I'll play this instead of Corvald, kind of deal. No, that was a million years ago. But
what if you were a Sultai and you got to play your synthesizer? All your creatures are artifacts that trigger your synthesizer.
Okay, that's interesting. And then all your constructs get huge.
Yeah.
Okay. It's interesting.
I mean, way too cute, but
way too cute. But still,
I didn't know.
Like it might be standard levels of cute.
Yeah, I didn't know if there was anything like in that vein that you could do if all your creatures were artifacts.
I mean, the case of the Filched Falcon just like triggers.
Yeah.
Like is it if there's like a one-sided like target opponent like Hurkyl's Recall, you just send all your opponent's creatures back to their hand.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have like a one-sided version of that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
All right, and then the last one is Fountain Port Bell. Oh wait, is that what I put down?
Yep.
Oh, I meant to put down the just Fountain Port, the land.
Oh, well maybe I misread it then.
That's right. Well, Fountain Port Bell, it's.
Hang on, I can get you Fountain Port.
Okay. It's also interesting just because it's 1 mana for an artifact. When it enters, search your library for a basic land card, reveal it, and put it on top of your library, and then you pay 1 to draw a card.
Mm-hmm.
So it is colorless 2 mana. Put a basic land in your hand.
Yep, that's true.
Right, like, we had. It was one of the lessons, right, that kind of did that as well.
Yeah,
like
environmental study.
Like that. Yes, like that effect is to some degree playable.
Fine.
It's also like 2 mana draw card.
Yep. All right. I have Fountain Port ready for you.
Excellent. Maybe I wrote the wrong thing, but Fountain Port.
Oh, I thought I did. Oh, well, let me drag it right in. Hang on.
Oh no. So Fountain Port. That's all right. We'll find it. So this is
I got it.
There we go. We fixed it. So Fountain Port is a land that taps for colorless. You can pay 2 tap, sacrifice a token, draw a card. You can pay 3 tap, pay 1 life, create a 1/1 blue fish creature token. And you can pay 4 tap, create a treasure token. There is currently like a $9 card in standard that is tap, add a colorless, pay 3, make a 1/1 might that can't block.
Mm-hmm.
So the 1 life does matter, right? And the fact that this doesn't like Mirix lets you get have 1 crack at colored mana, right? But this is Mirix, but the creature gets to block.
True.
Right? It lets you like chump something, which Mirix doesn't let you do.
Yep.
Also, like, you can take any like random tokens that you have generated in your game and draw cards with them.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think like create a treasure is going to be like a huge deal.
Not for 4 mana. That seems over.
Not for 4 mana. Yeah, I don't know why that's on there, but like it almost feels like sack a token, draw a card for 2 should be at the 4 mana spot.
Yeah.
But like the fact that it's just a way to make tokens, right? Like this is gonna see play in like standard control decks if or when Merrick's goes away.
Sure.
This also, like, in Transmogrify or Indomitable Creativity decks.
Yep.
Right? Like, where you would get to those points, like, you're like, oh man, I've got like 4 treasures, but I don't have the thing I need. Well, pay 2, sack a treasure, draw a card.
Yep.
Right? Like, so this, like, gives you the thing to target with your Transmogrify or Indomitable Creativity, but then also eats the extras that you've generated other ways that to help you find that thing. Like, the 1 life is a drawback, and like there will come points where you're like, I can't activate this anymore. But like when you're at that point, like Merrick's isn't helping you either a lot of times.
Right.
I guess the only time is like you're at 1, your opponent has nothing, and you're like Merrick's to win the game, or like Merrick's to start like making Merrick's tokens to start trying to win.
Yeah.
But you know, hopefully this helped you keep some life. Like, so you didn't have to take a Shieldred hit, or you didn't have to take a Glissa hit because you made a thing that could block.
Right.
So, like, this is Merrick's, but different. But, you know, depending on your deck, it definitely has some advantages over Merrick's.
Mm-hmm.
So, just a card to, like, keep an eye on, because I think Merrick's is like $9 right now.
Yeah.
Right. This is the kind of card that is going to see play over the course of it's 3 years in Standard.
Oh God, don't remind me.
Like, especially like once Merrick's rotates.
Yeah.
Right. Like, this is gonna kind of be. It is so funny that like we have Merrick's in Standard, and they've printed a card that like directly competes with it.
Yeah.
Right. Like, remember, like, you would have a card in Standard, and you'd be like, oh, they're not gonna print a card that is kind of like similar to it, right? We're not gonna have like that kind of overlapping effect, and now it's just like, would you like 2 things that when they die they
Fling.
Fling? Would you like 2 lands that for 3 mana make a 1/1?
Well, I mean, the same thing happened with man lands. We had, was it 3 colorless creature lands in Standard at the same time?
So
the Kaldheim one, the snow one.
Yeah, okay. And then
wasn't there 2 from Ravnica?
There was one from there was the one that was like 4 mana, put up 2 +1/+1 counters on it from the Zendikar Rising.
I think there was one in War also.
Those didn't overlap though. Like, War was years ago. There was one. It was Mobile District. But there may have been another one. I know there were 2 for sure.
Yeah, I thought there was a 3rd one.
But it's just weird, like one of the activated abilities on both of them is effectively the same thing.
Yeah.
Right? 3 mana, make a 1/1 on a land.
Yep.
Oh, okay. We've also come a long way, like Castle Ardenvale, 4 mana, make a 1/1.
Right.
Now, granted, it gave you colored mana, but it's kind of like, oh, we just get this now. But it is funny, like, you used to not get as much of that overlap. Yeah, but it took more work to get it, though,
definitely.
right? Yeah. But like, you wouldn't typically, like, the snow one took like snow to activate.
Yeah.
Right, and then the other one was like 4 mana, and it grew, and it was different. Like, this one's different, but it's also just like 3 mana, tap, make a 1/1. It's like, I have this exact card. Like, I don't understand why we need 2 of this effect in the same Standard.
Right.
Just not like, oh, this is bad or good. Just like weird, because it used to not get that.
Yeah.
Unless it was like, you know, we want this effect in, and for like 3 months they're going to overlap as like one comes in and one goes out.
Yeah, but like that's not a thing now that we have a 3-year rotation.
Yes. In 3 years, hopefully they're like, are you sick of that effect? Would you like us to not have that again? And they're not just like, yeah, we need that effect for we need 6 years of Standard that has this effect.
Yeah.
All right. So is that all the cards?
That's all the cards. Unless you got any more.
I don't think I have any more.
Yeah, I don't have any.
So with that, we got a show. So if you have any show ideas or, I don't know, LGSs in the Madison area that I should darken their door,
hit us
up. Reach out. Facebook, Discord, Twitter, email, let us know.
Yep. Like Brian said, there's going to be some weirdness coming up. Potential recording quality, potential timeline quality, or time frame issues. Just bear with us for the next few weeks while Brian gets his life in order.
It might take more than a few weeks. It could be a few years till my life is in order. We've been trying for 44 years and we still haven't got
Hasn't happened yet.
Hasn't happened yet.
So just bear with us. We got some growing pains coming up. If you want to support the show, there's a couple ways you can do it. First is TCG Player via our affiliate link, CasualTryHard.com/TCG. Surf on over, do your shopping, support the show at the same time. Nice and easy. The second is with Patreon, patreon.com/CasualTryHardMTG. Chip a couple bucks in, get access to the show notes, get access to the unshow, get your on, and help us out. We'd appreciate it.
All right. So with that, we'll catch you on the internet.